This is pretty important. This has to do with Gothix, right? So if you guys remember on Hypnocast, we talked about what happened with Gothix, right? She kind of went into a little bit of the discussion, and she was actually telling us towards the end of the stream. She was telling us about her future, I guess, future whatever things she was doing. And one of the things she was doing is that she was going to be a guest speaker at a university in Georgetown. I thought that was pretty cool, right? I thought that was pretty interesting, and I was hoping that she was going to get to do that. It was something I think it was called like Real Walkaway, or like they basically walk like it's four content creators talking about why they walked away from the left. But here's why this is important. Okay. So shout out to Gothix. Apparently they canceled her visit. They canceled her time to talk at Georgetown. And the reason why they did it was for quote unquote safety concerns. And they canceled it last minute. Now, this situation right here is very reminiscent of what happened with that Star Wars girl. Okay. If you guys remember what happened with that Star Wars girl, she got banned from an event that she was going to go to at the last minute because she wasn't diverse enough, right? Where this one with Gothix, apparently it's because of safety concerns. What are those safety concerns? Well, they don't really actually say why. Of course not. And apparently, before they canceled it, they tried to extort her for $4,000. They tried to extort Gothix originally for $4,000 before completely canceling it. So they basically were saying, hey, we can't do this because of safety concerns, but if you pay us $4,000, we can hire the security necessary to host the event. Otherwise, we can't host it. And then when Gothix said, well, we can just cover the security ourselves, all of a sudden they just flat out canceled it. Right? So let's get into her post and see what she says. She says, next week, I was scheduled to speak at Georgetown with the Walkaway crew, but they canceled on us last minute due to safety concerns. What are the safety concerns? We have no idea because they won't tell us. Initially, they demanded $4,000 for security, but later canceled when they realized that the Real Walkaway was prepared to cover the cost. Quite revealing, isn't it? So Real Walkaway, again, is the Walkaway campaign that they were going to use to have this discussion at the university, right? So they were going to fund their own security. They were going to do it themselves. And the university, once they figured that out, they said, oh, you know what? We just can't do it. we just can't do it, right? So they were going to be more than willing to let Gothix speak as long as she paid $4,000, which is retarded. Throughout our tour, we visited 4 campuses and engaged with numerous leftist and communist students without any issues. Sure, we've had disagreements, but the disagreements aren't safety concerns unless your students have been conditioned to believe words are equivalent to violence. Which brings me to my point. If a university demands $4,000 for security just to host a guest speaker on campus, then perhaps it's not the speaker that they should be worried about. Now, that is a very telling statement. And the reason why it's a very telling statement is because it speaks to the truth, right? If you seriously are worried about safety when you got no threats, right? There was no threats to be made. Nobody threatened anything, okay? There was no bomb threats, no gun violence threats, nothing. You're going to claim it's safety, and then you're going to do it at the last minute too, which, again, is the most ridiculous thing. If you really wanted to not host this event, you shouldn't have allowed it to even be possible in the first place. Why would you go through with the event and then at the last second cancel it? I guess because they thought they can get money from them. Which is very telling. It's very telling. She's not lying. It's very telling when it comes to that university. And then think about this for a second. Look at this person, Brandon Straka. I guess this is someone else who was part of Walk Away from the Left. Georgetown University just canceled our event schedule for this Tuesday evening. We received an email today from Patrick Ledisma, MPH, he, him. Oh, pronouns in the bio. That's all you need to know. If you're oh my God. Oh my God, man. If you're getting an email from the university and the person emailing you canceling your event has pronouns in their email signature, Yeah, I think we found out why. I think we found out why. I think we understand now why you probably are not allowed there anymore. Telling us that there isn't sufficient time to deal with security concerns. To provide context, we've been planning this event with Georgetown for weeks. Everything was fine. Then several days ago, the school admins told us that the only way they will let us do the event is if we paid for additional security, quoting us an extra $4,000 beyond normal security costs, which is outlandish and unheard of. The school also told us that they wanted police to rope off the first 4 rows and put bike racks between the first row and speakers so that nobody could be near us. Again, ridiculous. Are these students or are they rabid animals? That's insane. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Think about that for a second. You're students. This is what you're fostering, right? If you are a university and you think your students are such rabid animals that you have to put fucking bike racks and police tape in between speakers and the students, what are you teaching these students? What are you teaching them? You're teaching them how to be straight up communists, bro. Like that's got to be what you're teaching them, because they're insane. You mean to tell me they can't sit down and just listen to people speak without just fucking screeching at the top of their lungs? Karen, have a good night, man. Thank you so much for hanging out. That's insane. That is insane. Despite the fact that the host club told us that these measures and requirements are not put in place for other events, including leftist students, trans seminars, and other events that progressive students pop up at the last minute, we agreed to all of these excessive requests. Seeing that we weren't dissuaded by any of these proposed regulations, we now receive the cancellation today. We've booked flights and hotels for all speakers and crew, hired videography, spent money and man hours on graphic design and promotion for this event. This is what the left does to us constantly. This is just the beginning of how far the left will go to insulate the people that they want to remain indoctrinated from being able to hear from people who have left their cult. We will be returning to DC campuses in the fall, as well as campuses in Ohio, Arizona, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Georgia, Nevada, and more. Our apologies to anybody who's disappointed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's crazy. So what they ended up trying to do, from what I can see anyway, so what they ended up trying to do was that they didn't actually want them to speak. They didn't want them to speak, but the problem is they can't outright just tell them no because of political ideology. That would lead to a very interesting discussion, perhaps with some lawyers, right? So what they did was they tried to dissuade them with all these retarded fucking stipulations. That's what they tried to do. They tried to dissuade them. They essentially told them no without telling them no. They tried to get them to say no by putting in all these ridiculous demands. And then when Gothix and her crew were like, okay, we'll do them, no problem. Okay. At the last second, they were like, all right, you know what? Well, we need $4,000. If you're not going to give us $4,000, we can't do it. And then they canceled it, knowing that they weren't going to give $4,000. They tried everything else, and then they used extortion at the end, and then they canceled it anyway when they lost. It's pathetic, man. This entire thing is fucking pathetic. It really is. You try to dissuade them first, and then you try to extort them. That's what you tried to do. So hopefully, shout out to Gothix. I'm sorry you guys lost money on this nonsense, because that's really what this is, man. This is nonsense. We are extremely disappointed, as well as we are always when the left engages in intentional subterfuge and sabotage to try to stand in the way of us getting our message out. That's all it is. That's all it is. They're trying to do everything they can. And look, you guys had a few weeks. You had a few weeks to set this up. So either you were lazy and you didn't do what you were supposed to do, or you never had intention to do this in the first place, which I'm more likely to believe that one. They didn't have intention to do this. They weren't going to actually go through with the event. They made them make posters. They made them waste their money. They made them waste their flights, travel, all that stuff. And then they canceled it like they planned to from the beginning. They were never going to host this. This was never going to be a thing. This was never, ever going to be a thing. And you know what's crazy? It looks like two black women. So you have diversity on this panel, and yet you're choosing not to host it because it's not the right kind of diversity. It's not the right kind. You guys get my drift? It's not the right kind of. These aren't the right kind of black people. Oh no, that's not the right kind. They don't fit the mold. They don't fit the mold. This is not the right kind.